we're going to be reflecting on his over 1,000 games in management a little later. We're also going to be catching up with Brendan Cummins this evening. So the Tip legend has been managing the Tip under-20s for the last number of years, and he's got them over the line in the All-Ireland final last weekend against Kilkenny. And then there is loads to discuss in this week's Wednesday Night Rugby. That's coming your way after 8 o'clock with Jerry Thornley of the Irish Times joining us in studio. As ever, you can send us a message on WhatsApp. Our number is 0879 180 180, and Cameron Hill will be delivering the news round very shortly. Cameron, how are you doing?
Good evening, Eoin. Is the reason Mick's not here literally because of the Mick McCarthy interview?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
We used to often, on a Saturday panel, Owen, discuss having, we'd have themes for the panel. So, we get people with similar interests or different things like that we'd just have a panel with one name.
That's a good idea.
So you'd have Mick McCarthy. Mm-hmm. So people will have to go, who else do we have? We'll have Mick McCarthy. We just need to find a third Mick McCarthy.
Any ideas? Does Mike McCarthy, the former...
You see, you're pushing boundaries then, the former Leinster player.
It's like there's about 15 Barry Murphys.
But Barry Murphy was always top of the list because it gave you a lot of options in there.
Yeah, you could do an Alan Smith panel. It'd be an expensive one to get together to persuade them to come to Dublin for a really stupid piece of radio, but
a Michael Murphy panel.
A Michael Murphy panel.
My dad will take part, no problem. We'll have, look, if we can't find 3 interesting Michael Murphys, it's going to be a struggle.
Yes. So there we go. We've got 3 ideas to run with there. 3-week series coming your way on Off the Ball. Some Saturday.
0879 180 180 if you want to help us out with our Saturday panels with just people with the one name.
Or if you're the third Michael McCarthy out there.
Yeah,
if you're the third, tell us.
Show up.
Send us your CV as to why you justify your place on our panel with Michael McCarthy and Michael McCarthy. It's very confusing when you're ringing Mick McCarthy and you ring the wrong Mick McCarthy.
Why is it confusing? Can you get mixed up like on their WhatsApp or something like that?
Am I allowed? Is that given away?
No,
something?
There's no GDPR process
that's fine.
here.
Both of them have similar WhatsApp background, like the exact same. Both of them are on their holidays with family members in what looks like pretty much the exact same location. So even when you would have thought there's a separate, because there's obviously a decent separation in age. Yeah. So there's a lot of similarities between the two Mick McCarthys.
And are we sure that Mick McCarthy isn't Mick McCarthy's dad?
Well, that's a whole other conversation that I don't feel is right to get into without
that's why
our own Mick McCarthy.
Like Mick mightn't be here because there'd be a Back to the Future type thing where like he starts disappearing from his WhatsApp photo because the time-space continuum has been so ruptured.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of that, it is going to be quite a long slot if we're planning to go through all 1,042 games of his managerial career a little later on. I dare say we might have to shelve that because the Saipan movie just feels like an obvious talking point with Mick McCarthy in this day and age, doesn't it?
Do you know, the Saipan movie is such a strange occurrence in that it's one of those things that was spoken about, and I still haven't got my head around the fact that it's actually happening. It's sort of thing over, the 20 years, or, well, coming up on 25 years, it will be almost by the time it's released, of, someone should make a movie on that. And you're like, well, it would never happen. And then they announced Steve Coogan's getting involved. It's like, well, it's still not really going to happen. But this thing is 100% happening. As we'll hear, Steve Coogan has met with Mick McCarthy, has spent time in his presence, has perfected the accent. Probably, is Mick McCarthy, like we're talking about between Mick and Roy, 2 of the most taken off impersonations already in Irish sport. So Steve Coogan has to nail this one. I'm a bit apprehensive about the movie because it's one of those things that's better left in our imagination. I feel that everyone we talk to in the room, with the exception maybe of Mick and Roy, never finds it as interesting as the rest of the population who were back here reading about it in the papers.
Really? What did they say? They think it's overblown, or really?
Yeah, it was.
I'm not sure how.
Almost a footballing incident.
Okay.
I think the people who were there, the footballers who were there, struggled to fully grasp how this took over the country. How this isn't just the most controversial sporting moment in the history of this country. It's arguably the most controversial moment in the history of the country.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that it'll find like some sort of niche market, that it'll just resonate with some totally far-flung. But it's like how Westlife are huge in Japan for whatever reason. It doesn't make any sense, but they've got massive record sales. And maybe, I don't know, Saipan might be too close to home for Japanese people and Korean people, but like maybe it takes off in somewhere like Turkey. It's just a huge hit.
Yeah,
you know?
it's also interesting that it's like Mick Roy, and we've got an actor for Niall Quinn as well. So Niall's obviously going to be a big part of the narrative of this whole thing.
Well, so. Also, I see Harriet Keynes is going to play Teresa Keane, so Roy's wife. And obviously, we don't know what went on behind closed doors. So, is this a Damned United style movie of it's a fictional account of factual events? So we're sort of led to believe here's what happens rather than more a documentary style.
There is a fifth member of the cast that's been confirmed, Misty the Labrador. Who do you think Misty the Labrador is playing?
Wow. Oh, wow.
So congratulations to Misty on landing the role of Triggs. That's everything we know about the Saipan movie at this point.
Are you excited about it?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like 100%. I'm there.
If it was a documentary or something based on like entirely factual things and not dramatised any bit, I'd have very little interest in it. But I'm here for the added drama.
Would you not find that like just your extensive experience of Saipan and what went on, it probably will colour how the film goes for you? It's like how I didn't like Challengers just because I love tennis and I hated watching it. I thought it was terrible. But so many of my mates absolutely love that film with, you know, Zendaya and Josh O'Connor. And it sometimes when you see like Invictus was not a great film, because if you know the sort of story around Nelson Mandela and that South Africa World Cup winning team, any sort of fictional depiction and the director's view of it, because that's what a film is, it's the director's interpretation of a story, it's ultimately not going to live up to your imagination. Do you think you're already going in fighting a losing battle and maybe this has to exceed pretty lofty expectations?
I don't think, with all due respect, I'm not sure it's got to be taken overly seriously. Now, the only thing is the cast seems exceptional, so maybe I don't want to discredit the work or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying.
That's why I'm wondering what path they're going to take to telling the story. Is it going to be a very serious retelling where it will spark up all the debates again and people who didn't know Saipan in other parts of the world? And even as we know, it's not as important in England as it is over here. It's just another thing that happened. Roy Keane. It doesn't still dominate 25 years on. Or is it more that Damned United style? And we're going to have a little bit of fun with this. Obviously, not everybody who works with us found it as fun as some people did. But are they going to have a little bit of fun and, you know, work artistic license at different times?
I don't know. Well, we will find out later on tonight what Mick McCarthy has to say about it. He's jumping out of an airplane, I believe. He is, yes. I didn't want to. I'm never quite sure. You know, Mick's sort of sense of humour and maybe my sense of humour may not go hand in hand. I was going to suggest to really raise a lot of money. Obviously, you could find someone to push you out of it, and we all know, you could raise a lot of money for that. But he's doing a lot of charity work. Listen, the reason we got in touch with him was because he's inducted into the LMA Hall of Fame for 1,000 games. 1,000 games, he's there alongside Klopp, Mourinho, Moyes, and Holloway. That's it's fairly illustrious company, and a lot of it at a very high echelon of the game between Premier League, Upper Championship. So I don't think he's done just yet. No, I don't think so. Looking forward to that chat later on. So that's coming up after 9 o'clock. As I say, Wednesday night rugby in the middle hour, and then Brendan Cummins is going to be coming up from around 7:30, 7:35 this evening. We're going to kick off the news round, which is here with UPMC Orthopaedic Care. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action. Where are we starting, Cameron? Well, it's a huge day for Craig Casey, Eoin. He's been named as Ireland captain for their summer tour of Georgia and Portugal. Interim head coach Paul O'Connell has included 11 uncapped players in his squad for the 2 tests in July, while Ulster trio James McNabney, June Postlethwaite and Zach Ward are also travelling as training panellists. Casey will become the 112th player to skipper the Ireland men's side. There's no room in the squad for Munster centre Tom Farrell. Robbie Henshaw also misses out through injury. He's reportedly on the standby list for the Lions as well. While Ian Henderson and Rob Herring have also been left out, having only recently returned from long-term spells on the sidelines. We have audio of Stuart Lancaster. Yeah, he's outlined his reasons for accepting the role of Connacht head coach. The former England pos is heading to Dexcom Stadium on a 2-year deal beginning in July. Speaking to Connacht in-house media today, Lancaster explained there are a lot of similarities between Galway and Cumbria, where he's from.
I think obviously the touch point with Ireland started with Leinster, and you know that first year at Leinster, I just realised how similar The people from Ireland are to the people from Cumbria, where I'm from originally, and people from the north of England, actually. Very similar. You know, I'm from a sort of farming background, and the rural nature of living in Cumbria. And I actually went to a school on the west coast of Cumbria, so it's a bit like, it's not as bad as the west coast of Ireland in terms of the wind and the rain, but it's pretty similar. So that sort of connection with the Irish culture grew during the 7 years. Obviously then I took the opportunity to go to France, and that was completely different. But then when I spoke to Willie, I spoke to David Humphries, the opportunity to come back and then to come and do it in a club like Connacht, you know, it was too good to turn down, really. So super excited. And my wife Nina, she'll be across soon enough, so we'll get her across. We've got 2 dogs, so we need to navigate the ferry and get them across somehow. But no, really looking forward to living over here and trying to make a difference, you know.
What's your biggest word of advice for living in Galway to Stuart Lancaster?
Try and turn up for work would have been my issue.
That was famously a problem. Lots of dead air.
lots of dead air. Well, Stuart, I think is a bit more focus in his life than I ever had. When he lived in Dublin, he didn't have a TV in his apartment because he didn't really ever want it to feel like home, because he was commuting a lot from England. So when he was here, he was working, and when he was relaxing at home. It sounds like maybe Galway is going to become more of a home from him. I think it's so exciting and so needed for Connacht Rugby. Like, Andy Friend bought into what Connacht was about so well, and embracing all of the counties to get behind the Galway-based team. And that just seems to have fallen away over the last few years with the lack of success on the pitch, and that connection between the fans and the team. And Lancaster, very different type of personality, you would say, to Andy Friend. I just think he elevates them to another level of what they can expect to achieve over the next few years. But as he said, if there's similarities with his home place, hopefully he settles in. The more relaxed style of life may take a while for him to get used to.
Yeah, and put a TV in your house. I mean, that's a high performance mindset, isn't it? No TV in the house. Stay ready, stay on your toes. Don't settle at any moment. You have news regarding Kian Healey, Cameron.
He's going to end his rugby career in Cape Town at the end of June. So the Leinster and Ireland veteran will line out for the Barbarians against world champions South Africa on Saturday, June 28th. He's been added to a squad that already includes fellow Irishman Peter O'Mahony and Conor Murray, with Sam Kane and Shannon Frizzell also confirmed as part of that squad.
Patrick has been in touch to say he couldn't beat the après-match Eamon Dunphy interview after he stormed out of RTE in protest. That is the thing. That is the bar set by the likes of Mario Rosenstock, après-match. That's what Steve Coogan's got to get to, and Éanna Hardwick's got to get to over the next, probably now. They're probably filming as we speak.
That's exciting to think about. Like, where do they end in terms of who's an extra and who's an actor in terms of that dressing room? Like, who's playing Kilban?
Oh, give me a sec. 0879 180 180. Who is playing Kevin Kilban? Give us your casting ideas for the 2002 World Cup squad for the Republic of Ireland. In the meantime, we've got news and we've got audio. We've got the voice of Rory McIlroy, Cameron.
Yeah, he admits he was angry that news of his driver failing a standards test was leaked to the media at the PGA Championship. So the results were supposed to remain confidential after the Hollywood clubman was forced to switch clubs midway through the tournament. McIlroy refused to do any interviews during the event and says part of the reason was to protect eventual winner Scotty Scheffler, who also failed the test.
I was a little pissed off because I knew that Scotty's driver had failed on Monday, but my name was the one that was leaked. It was supposed to stay confidential. 2 members of the media were the ones that leaked it. So why, I didn't want to get up there and say something that I regretted either, because there's a lot of people that I'm trying to protect Scotty. I don't want to mention his name. I'm trying to protect TaylorMade. I'm trying to protect the USGA, PGA of America, myself. So I just didn't want to get up there and say something that I regretted at the time. And with Scotty's stuff, that's not my information to share. I knew that had happened, but that's not on me to share that. And I felt, that process is supposed to be kept confidential, and it wasn't for whatever reason. And, that's why I was pretty annoyed at that. And then from a responsibility standpoint, look, I understand, but if we all wanted to, we could all bypass you guys and we could just go on this and we could go on social media and we could talk about our round and do it our own way. We understand that that's not ideal for you guys, and there's there's a bigger dynamic at play here. And I talk to you guys and I talk to the media a lot. I think there should be an understanding that this is a two-way street, and as much as, we need to speak to you guys, we're sort of, we understand the benefit that comes from you being here and giving us the platform and everything else. So I understand that, but again, I've been beating this drum for a long time. Like, if they want to make it mandatory, that's fine. But in our rules, it says that it's not, and until the day that's maybe written into the regulations, you're gonna have guys skip from time to time, and that's well within our rights.
So Rory annoyed with two members of the golf press pack, and he didn't want to speak to the journalists at large.
It's not the golf media's issue. Their job is to find stories and bring them to the public. So if he has a frustration, it should be with whoever in the authorities leaked it to the media. And maybe it's just the language is slightly off there, but he obviously didn't speak to the media. The sense I get from talking to people in America is there's almost a just degree of bewilderment and almost sadness that this developed over the USPGA, because this is the honeymoon period. This is the best sports story of the year so far. This is the bit, as he spoke about himself before going into the USPGA, where the pressure's off. The burden isn't there on his shoulders anymore, and actually he can enjoy all of this. And the golf didn't go as well as he would have wanted. I think it's understandable. He was frustrated both in having to change driver, and then the fact his name was the one that was put out there for, what is a nothing offence? Like, this happens, Scotty Scheffler as well. And actually his refusal to talk about it made it become a much bigger story, and so many more people aware of this testing and questions that didn't need to be asked and were completely unfair in them being asked. So not turning up then last week at Memorial at Jack Nicklaus tournament, which again, he's well within his rights. He's playing in Canada this week, which he feels is a better preparation for the US Open, which is taking place next week. But like, he should be on a sort of grand tour of the world for 2025, and everywhere he goes there's just adulation and appreciation and respect. And there's this strange undercurrent that's now developed of frustration from him, and maybe not just enjoying the moment as much as he should be.
Yeah, like it's been a bit of a theme, obviously, when you look back at what Shane Lowry was saying at Augusta and around the last round there, in terms of mandatory media dealings or voluntary media dealings. And I hadn't actually quite realised that it's not mandatory in most situations on tour. I had assumed that there was some sort of duty that you had to perform, like whether it was pre-tournament or whether it was after every single round.
No, well, and the difficulty for Rory is, so Rory's tied for 28th after the first round. It's only 3 or 4 golfers in that position who are being asked to do an interview. So people want to talk to Rory after every round, whether he's first, whether he's last, whether he's missing the cut, or whether he's just having a bang average week, which is sort of what he had at the USPGA. And, I do have some sympathy for him in that he's stepped up to the mark more often than not. Ironically, I think what's made him so beloved and what made that night at the Masters so special was that he had let people in so often over the last few years in those post-round interviews into just how much it all meant. You think back to even tears at the Ryder Cup, Portrush, the first round, where he has quadruple bogey in the first hole at Portrush in 2019, and how he brilliantly scraps back on the Friday night to try and make the cut, and the tears that were there, how much it meant to him. I think all of that fed the story of finally he gets over the line. So to now just sort of pull back and say I'm done with that, I really hope it's a one-off. And there's times where players are angry, but all of that just, I think it always endears people to them, rather than, I rarely see there being a downside to showing the bit of emotion in your post-round interview.
Not for us anyway, and I don't think anybody's judging them, but I wonder, does it just enhance how much you're actually feeling crap, that you're actually out there talking and you're being jabbed? Not necessarily to try and get a reaction, but it's not going to always help you when you do have to answer these questions the whole time. So maybe from their perspective, it's something that does bristle with them from time to time, especially when, as you say, he's the one person that people want to talk to after every single round. Should we move on to the next story, Cameron? I think it's football next.
Yeah, plenty of football stories today. On former Republic of Ireland international Lee Carsley has signed a contract extension as the England under-21s boss. The 51-year-old has agreed to a new 2-year deal with the FA as the defending champions continued their preparations for this summer's Euros. Carsley took interim charge of the senior England team last year before the appointment of current boss Thomas Tuchel. Germany and Portugal contest the first of the semi-finals in League A of the Men's Nations League this evening. Kick-off in Munich is at 8 o'clock. And here at home, Finn Harps say they will appeal a ban imposed by FIFA, which temporarily prevents the club from signing new players. The First Division club have been added to the FIFA registration ban list over what they have reportedly described as a technicality over a signing 3 years ago. Harps are being assisted by the FAI on the matter.
There's also a breaking story elsewhere in the world of football, Nathan. I think the Times and Matt Lawton reporting on Dave Brailsford.
Yeah, Jim Ratcliffe is planning a major reshuffle that will lead to Sir Dave Brailsford reducing his commitment to Manchester United. He's going to return to his role as Director of Sport for Ineos. So Geraint Thomas is moving to a senior leadership position at the team when he retires at the end of the season. And it seems that Dave Brailsford is going to return to his roots, I guess, and try and help Geraint Thomas in that transition that he's going to be facing. According to the report in the Times, Jim Ratcliffe's very pleased with all that Dave Brailsford has done at Manchester United and the transformation that has been going on at the club, the obvious cost-cutting, the redevelopment of their training ground, this Mission 21 plan for a 21st League title and a first league title for the women's team. So he's been credited with that being a success so far. But it looks as though we're going to see less of Sir Dave at Old Trafford alongside Jim when the camera pans and another disappointment comes forth next season.
Cycling man going back to cycling roots. What are United going to lose? What's the legacy of Dave Brailsford at Manchester United, Nathan? Sum it up. This is a big moment.
Well, I think for most people from the outside, it will be seen as shambolic. The legacy may well be 5-10 years if this summer is seen as a turning point in the signings that they make and Ruben Amorim being the right appointment. But obviously everyone was trying to distance himself from who made the decision to keep Eric Ten Hag on in the first place. The relentless cost-cutting, the heartless manner of how they have doled out the redundancies over the past year. In the business world, I think, you can see why Jim Ratcliffe might think that's a success. But ultimately for Manchester United, success is on the field, and it's been nothing short of a shambles and a complete disaster.
Will he get a golden key like Elon did when he left the White House during the week?
Potentially. The Lawton piece does have a paragraph on what he's actually credited him for specifically. So it's overhauling the performance setup, £50 million redevelopment of Carrington, and also drawing up Mission 21. So it's a 21st League title and a first championship for the women's team. So I guess that's the credit that's going to come his way if the 21st League title does come Manchester United's way in the next couple of years. So
this one goes out to David Brailsford.
Yeah, Dave Brailsford out the door at United, or at least his role is being lessened somewhat. But it seems that Jim Ratcliffe is continuing his investment in cycling. So I know he had pulled out of a few different areas, including the All Blacks over the last couple of years. Loads of texts coming in. Who will play Kevin Kilban? PJ says Jim Carey as Lloyd as Kevin Kilban. Surely Jim Carey plays Kevin Kilban, says another texter. Gordon says Kevin has to be played by Kevin Bacon. Hilton says Kevin Kilban could be played by Roy from Coronation Street. Mark says Will Ferrell to play Kevin Kilban. He's already got the ice skating experience. Very good. Barry Keown to play Kev, says another person. Tom Holland to play Matt Holland. Jesse Plemons, either Stan or Duffer, which is very good.
That's great.
Michael Flatley as Kevin Kilban, says Paddy. And
I'd like to see more of a Christian Bale style figure, a real method actor who goes and lives with Kilban for several months to really get under his skin.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
And when it's a fleeting appearance, it's an important one.
Yeah, wow. What can you even do to get method on Kevin Kilban?
Christian Bale tries to explain the Nations League.
Yeah, it's
AI that up.
Yeah, his toughest role yet. 0879 180 180 is our number. Where do you want to go next?
Well, Galway boxer Kieran Malloy says he's delighted to bring big-time boxing to his hometown at the end of the month. The 26-year-old will take on British fighter Casey Benjamin for the WBA European welterweight title at Pearse Stadium on June 28th. It's the first time that the Salt Hill venue has hosted a boxing event, while Galway GAA's operations manager Sean O'Connor revealed that a few of the county's inter-county stars helped to get the historic fight over the line.
I suppose the connection really is obviously with the footballers. So Kieran would be friendly with Matty Tierney and Sean Kelly, is my understanding. So I suppose that once we knew that connection was there and, you know, that they wanted that, I suppose it was something that we were keen to support as much as we could, as long as, you know, everything was working out.
Yeah, and we're speaking to Kieran Malloy on tomorrow night's Off the Ball. You're going with the tennis next, Cameron.
Yeah, another major upset pulled off by world number 361 Lois Boisson at the French Open today. She knocked out 6th seed Mira Andreeva in the quarterfinal in straight sets at Roland Garros. She's the lowest ranked woman ever to make the semi-finals at the French Open, and she'll now play Coco Gauff. She had to come from behind against fellow American Madison Keys to win in 3 sets today. Men's world number 1 Yannick Sinner is into the semi-finals after easing past Alexander Bublik in straight sets. He'll play the winner of Novak Djokovic and Sasha Zverev, who are battling it out for the last Final Four slot in the next few minutes, in fact.
Because Nathan's in studio, you've always got to include his favourite sport as a closer, don't you?
Oh, go on. So Fallon Sherrock has revealed she'll take a year out of the sport in 2026. The 30-year-old, of course, rose to prominence after winning 2 rounds at the 2019 World Darts Championships, but health problems have prevented her from recapturing her best form recently. Sherrock says that the sky will be the limit when she returns from that sabbatical.
Did you watch the final of the Premier League darts last Thursday night?
No, I was working hard on the radio till 10
Didn't
p.m.
finish till about 11 p.m. You could have got the final.
A debriefing for
Luke
an hour
v
after.
Luke.
Who won it?
Luke Humphreys.
Luke Humphreys got another one back over Littler.
Yes, revenge for last year.
Any good?
Yeah, standard. There was a breeze. Which was causing both of them issues, particularly Luke Humphreys. I was wondering, was it a little bit of mind games? One says this is a common enough occurrence, particularly in the Premier League when they're in the big venues. You start seeing them looking over to the right hand side. Somebody left a door open, or
Not a Gary Anderson type breeze.
no, not a Gary Anderson type breeze. So the standard maybe wasn't quite where we had hoped for. There was no 9 darter in the final like there was last year.
Right.
But Humphreys. I'm on the fence on Luke Humphreys. I feel sympathy for him in that, you know, he was the world champion last year. He's sort of been the best player, but it's always, yeah, but Luke Littler's the guy. Now, maybe he's sort of the Phil Mickelson to Tiger Woods here, in that he's going to make 10 times as much money as he would have otherwise because Luke Littler is around.
I think that's probably close enough to the truth. Hard to feel sympathy for him, especially given how laden his trophy cabinet is at this point as well. And Luke Littler is just the younger guy. Everybody wants the next big thing, and he's in the shadow of a guy who's arguably not as good as him.
No,
on form and on...
I think Littler's peak is well ahead of everybody else. But Luke Humphreys has certainly proven that he's not the worst world champion ever, as he was possibly described when he won it.
Really? That seems...
Very hard, incredibly harsh.
Stephen Westmead says Dermot Whelan could play Kilban. Have you not heard him perform Kevin Kilban's Ice Cream Van? Yes, we have.
Yeah.
So there's a third option there in the mix. Keep them coming in. 0879 180 180 is our number. Nathan, thank you for your darts update. Cameron, thank you for tonight's news round. We are speaking to Brendan Cummins next about managing the tip under 20s to All Ireland hurling glory there at the weekend. Before that, it's time for the cash machine.
News Talk's Cash Machine.
Now, there's another huge amount to be won in the cash machine this Friday. The number you now need to know is €75,000 exactly. Text play to 57557. That's 57557. Get your entry in by 3 p.m. on Friday, and then across the Gold Out network of stations, someone will get that call. If your phone rings, you have to answer it within 5 rings. Give us the exact amount in euro and cent, and